Let's go to the International Rally.
Washington calling Canberra. Aurora Valley, come in, please.
This is Aurora.
Roger. Have you had AOS Skylab yet?
Roger, we're standing by. We have AOS, AGC minus 110 dBm and increasing.
Roger, Aurora. Could you put AM data online now, please?
Affirmative, data is online.
Roger, Aurora, we see data.
Roger. AGCs are falling rapidly. We have LOS.
Roger, Aurora, we copy LOS. We copy LOS here. I copy it at 0022 Zulu.
Roger, Aurora has nothing further. Roll out.
Roger, Goddard, clear.
The call goes out, Washington calling Canberra. Canberra, Australia's national capital and the setting for the Castrol International Rally.
At his gate each year stood as the whistle loudly blew, with eyebrows fixed and lips compressed, the tigers all fell to. On the shears as through the wool they glide, see our guns already turned and on the women's side.
The rally is a major motorsport event in Australia, an event that attracts thousands of fans to enjoy the competition of man and machine matched against the pitfalls of nature and the clock.
I woke up about 7 o'clock where I made sure not to go to bed too early because there's always a little bit of tension before the start of a rally. And so I hit the sack at about 11, slept well till 7. My first interest was what the weather was like. I looked out the window and was delighted to see that it was overcast with the prospect of rain. I was aware that I was going in a rally because I started to feel that uptight feeling you get in the gut that I think we all experience just prior to doing something that you realise is pretty important, that you want to do very well at.
3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1, and away goes Blomqvist.
The rally has 40 stages. The team losing the least amount of time over all the stages is the winner. The cars are seated according to expected performance. The fastest car number 1 and the lower performance cars further down the order, right down to 50. The light patter of rain through the pine trees is shattered as Car 1 accelerates through the mud and signals the start of competition. Car 1 is the favourite, a Saab driven by the Swedish champion Stig Blomqvist. Car 2, a Ford Escort RS 1800 driven by the local champion Greg Carr, and he's expected to be the main challenger. Car 4, another Escort driven by 3 times Australian champion Colin Bond. The rally route is set on access roads and fire trails in the forest. 2 days of light rain before the start has added spice to the event and levelled out the competition. The current Australian champion is Ross Dunkerton, driving Car 5, an untested Datsun utility. Car 7, New South Wales champion Barry Ferguson, it's a private entry Escort. Race organisers have planned each stage with a set time limit, a limit expected to test drivers' ability and car design. But despite treacherous conditions, Stig Blomqvist finishes 5 seconds early with no points lost. Back at the start, the Japanese driver Mitsuo Ayabe makes a start in his Toyota Trueno, and the rest of the field begin the chase. Car 2 finishes. Greg Carr has mesmerised officials by finishing 22 seconds inside the allotted time, and the rally has blasted away to a sensational start. The leaders have already begun to set the pace for the others to follow. Wayne Bell responds by launching his Gemini into the assault on stage 1. His hard driving tactics are the only way of staying in touch. Under the rules, Carr and Blomqvist are equal leaders, but those extra few seconds mean a lot to Greg Carr.
Well, this particular rally is very important because Stig Blomqvist is running, and my ultimate ambition is to run overseas, and him being one of the top, maybe in the top 5 in the world, it's a good yardstick, so I can measure myself compared to him. So it's very important, this particular rally.
The track is already becoming badly cut up. It makes the conditions that much more difficult for cars further down the field, but it's only early in the rally. Australia's Castrol rally provides both the public and the drivers with perfect setting. All the racing is conducted in forest and off public roads in picturesque locations. The forests were started in the Canberra district at the beginning of this century. The natural beauty of the landscape provides a haven for bushwalkers, trail rides, archery and other forms of recreation in a carefully controlled environment. The challenge at the head of the rally is starting to hot up. Greg Carr has established more than a minute lead over Blomqvist. The time against machine struggle has begun to give way to a driver's fight for superiority. The front-wheel drive Saab doesn't have the same power as the Escort up the hills, but the skill shown by Blomqvist adds seconds to its potential. Greg Carr knows every inch of this section. He's won the rally 3 times. He knows that here he can push his machine to the limit. Despite the mud, the foot goes down and the speed mounts. So does his confidence, and so does his lead. There are 3 women competing in the field as navigators. Each team entry has a driver and a navigator. It's the navigators that force the cars along on schedule. The Lancer, car 20, has Anne Heaney aboard directing driver Ian Hill. Another female competitor is Yvette Pologny in car 47. The rally is an hour old for the leaders, but for her and driver Charlie Bell, it's just beginning. On the way to the first stage, they drive past Federal Parliament House. During the ceremonial opening of Parliament, both the House of Representatives and the Senate are present. The representatives are summoned to the Senate by the usher of the Black Rod.
Ask the gentlemen to rise.
Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the Governor-General desires the attendance of this Honourable House in the Senate chamber forthwith.
He's another of the people on hand to view the rally. Over the 2 days of the event, 40,000 people will watch. Out of the mud charges the Lancia Stratos. It's suffering early from a mistiming engine and mud scratching its plastic windscreen. slush from early competition has produced near nightmare conditions for the late runners. For many, it's a choice between slowing down speed or putting themselves out of the race. Right from the start of the rally, it's a team battle. That includes the efforts of the service crews whose job it is to keep the car on the road in the best condition possible. The Saab team are equal to the task, but it's the driver who knows the conditions best.
It's very difficult to say, but it's very muddy and slippery as now, for it's raining so much.
How do you feel about the pressure that the other drivers are keeping on you?
I don't know. I've been on first on all stages. I don't know the time yet, but it's a long way to go, so it's nothing to speak about yet.
With the rain still coming and it's getting worse, how are you going to approach your driving now in these next couple of stages?
It's just to drive on and see what's happened, I think. But I think a lot of things can happen now when it's so slippery.
Do you worry about it more in terms of your approach to your driving?
I think if it are slippery like that, it's better for me, I think. When I came from Sweden, we have a lot of snow and ice. It's nearly the same.
How important is the front-wheel drive?
I think sometimes it's more easy to drive, but here when it's so much uphill, you have a little bit less traction or a rear-wheel drive car, but I don't know. Wait and see the other time.
The service area is no place for hesitation. Every second counts. For drivers like Barry Ferguson, it's a chance to regather your thoughts.
Well, so far the car's handling well, but we've got a bit of a problem here that the boys are trying to look after on the back brakes. They tend to be binding a little, and of course for the last special stage we also ran without wipers, which I was not too keen on, and we couldn't see, especially when we were through mud puddles. It just locked the screen up completely and ran blind.
As problems develop, the running order between cars begins to change, but the push remains relentless. Most of the cars entered in the rally began life as production models right out of the showroom or car lot, but to prepare them for an event as arduous as the Castrol rally, they have undergone a number of modifications. Seams have been welded, roll bars fitted, larger engines and improved suspension added, but they all help to make the car safer and more competitive. Still, the rain comes down. It's playing havoc with the organisers' plans for the night section, and some sections might have to be revised. One of the most exciting aspects of rally driving is the techniques used by the driver to maintain power and speed. One technique is the Scandinavian flick. More techniques are tested in a special gymkhana section. Ross Dunkerton in the Datsun exemplifies the importance of throttle and steering control, aspects which become proportionately more difficult as conditions deteriorate. Greg Carr, in Car 2, the Escort, is still the leader into this section. He explains how important it is for the driver to be able to adjust his style.
Well, you've got to be a bit more careful. The problem is the road that you're on could be very firm, and then you might go around the corner and get halfway around and find a puddle of water, or the surface changes and becomes very slippery. So you've just got to back off ever so and just be a bit more cautious. Though I believe where we're going tonight, the roads are much better. They're made roads, so you've got more traction, and you can probably go a little bit harder. But I'm pretty happy because I know we've been keeping track of our score compared to Stig Blomqvist, who's our major opposition, and we've beaten him on every section so far by various margins. In fact, there was a long 18k section where I think we took over a minute off him, which is quite significant in this sort of rally. So I'm pretty happy so far.
At the end of the first day, those thoughts from Greg Carr are reinforced by another leading driver, Ross Dunkerton.
It's so wet that we're having trouble getting traction. And we're going into corners at probably 5-10 kilometres an hour and coming out of them about the same speed. But with hardly any control at all, you just cannot control the cars.
Do you have any fears at all about driving in those sort of conditions?
Yes, especially with a prototype car which we're driving at the moment. It's sort of a car that we can't predict until we've driven it for a length of time, which we haven't done as yet.
What about your approach to the rally overall? Does it change when it becomes wet and dangerous like this?
Yeah. I haven't driven in a wet rally now for about 4 years, I suppose. And this is the first wet rally that I've driven in the eastern states, because West Australia is usually fairly dry, but over here it's the first one for about 4 years, and it takes a long time to get used to it.
Has your confidence suffered at all because of it?
The first 3 or 4 sections, yes. I thought we were going exceptionally slow, but according to results, everybody else is doing the same thing, so we seem to be there. It's the main thing.
The crews roll in at the completion of the first day's session. The public either prepare themselves for a cold, wet night in the forest or contemplate it in more comfortable surroundings throughout the city. Those spectators who do opt to watch at trackside are usually out in the forest early to get the best possible viewing position. They'll be first to catch a glimpse of the leaders. Greg Carr has a good lead, and Blomqvist must now pull out all stops to narrow the gap. He's a very experienced night driver, and onlookers can almost feel his thoughts of challenge as the Saab charges into the section. Bond is still in touch, but knows the dangers of treating obstacles like the creek crossing too carelessly. Bond is now in 4th position behind Wayne Bell in the Gemini, Car 9. Fifth is Ayabi in the Toyota Trueno. The first sign of trouble for the leading bunch. Ross Duncan into the service area.
We seem to have a bit of back end problem. Just I think one of the shock mountings have broken on it. The problem is when you're coming down into off a hill braking, the back was tending to bounce and the car was a bit uncontrollable. So we've just missed out a section. We've got to get back up to the start of the special stage. So we've just done a detour down here to see if the boys can fix it.
So really it's not worrying your position in the race too much?
No, we've got about 15 minutes to repair it and get back up, and we'll still be in the same position, fifth on the road.
How's it look out there tonight?
Better than this morning anyway.
You can't see as much?
Yeah, it doesn't look as dangerous anyway.
Still itching to get out into it again?
Well, they're all looking very glummy, yeah, I hope so.
I don't think we're going to be successful. We can't blow a hole right through and put a long bolt through it, alongside it. I think we can get right through, aren't we?
Back out on the route, another Datsun driven by Murray Coote splutters after taking a swim in the creek. Away from the water and further along the track, Jack Armitage slips off the road and embeds his Datsun in the mud.
What are we doing?
We're going to try and lift it a bit.
Does it move at all?
Righto.
Need the winch, John.
It's going in. Can we lift the back?
Hang on, where's the other sling? You got the other sling, Paul?
Yeah, Phil.
It's an example of having to know more than just driving techniques. If you find yourself in trouble, then you have to be able to get out of it as quickly as possible, and do so without hindering the other competitors.
Yeah, how do you lock those things?
You don't, you just...
Which way? The wrong way, I think. Yeah, wrong way. Right.
Right, you winch
the
it.
car.
The rally is almost half over and tactics are now playing an important role between drivers. No one wants to lead. Both Carr and Blomqvist would rather follow each other so they know what time they have to beat. So far, neither has the upper hand, but Carr leads on time. forest control points are manned by volunteer workers and members of the Southern Districts Motor Sports Association. Both men and women work well into the night and share the compliment of a superbly run event.
Okay, thanks, you're clear.
I'll get under there and have a look anyway. To make sure we've got no...
4 night sections down, and Greg Carr still clings to his lead.
Table, right? Because we come back to you. We do one stage.
You want 3 gallons total?
Total, yeah.
Okay.
The section we just did was okay. The one before that was very, very rough, and we just took it very easy. But we cleaned the section anyway, so we had no points lost.
So everything's running smoothly?
Yeah, real well.
Looking forward to the rest of the night?
Yep.
How's the hand?
A bit sore, but you know, once you get going, you sort of forget about that.
You still confident then that you can take it?
Yeah. The car's going very well. I feel happy.
Stig Blomqvist. He knows the pressure is really on. He knows that his only hope is to keep pushing even harder in an attempt to catch or break Greg Carr. As in all major team events, the professional has better backup. The Castrol Rally has both works teams and privateer entries. Each of them is there to compete to the best of their ability. But it's primarily a competitive challenge. Local team manager Jerry Ball has 3 entries.
Well, the main thing you've got to do is have the service crew especially not flustered. Everybody's got to have a job, they've got to know the job. It doesn't matter if it's wet or it's dry or what it is. They've got to be prepared to lie in the mud, they've got to know their job, they've got to do their job, and that's about it.
Do you have anything to say to the drivers and navigators?
I'll talk to the drivers and see whether they're happy with the car. With an event like this, the tactics are fairly important, yes. So we keep an eye on how everybody else is going and how our drivers are going. We'll tell them how they're lying in the field and what to do about it.
Stig Blomqvist in the screaming Saab has thrown down the gauntlet. The others must match him now or lose. On through the darkness, flash after flash of headlights. The pace has been too much for some competitors. Late in the night, news filters through that the race leader, Greg Carr, has bogged his car halfway through the next section. It's near disaster for the local champion. It takes the team 3 attempts to winch the escort out, and the lead now has been reduced to only 45 seconds. In the remaining night section, the lead is cut back to 32 seconds by Blomqvist, and the leaders finish the night neck and neck. Late starters will finish late. For others, there'll be no sleep at all. Car 7 has serious mechanical problems, and it looks like a long night of repairs by the service crew.
24.11 he heads it. And number 2, Stig Blomqvist, 24.41. Number 3, Wayne Bell from the Holden Dealer team at 28.07. And number 4, Jeff Portman with 30.07 lost. And for all you guys up there, here's Paul Simon slip sliding away.
The first sunshine in 2 days breaks the dawn on Sunday, and the calm belies the drama and tension hanging over the final day of the rally. Past the embassies, the spectators head out early to prepare vantage points to watch the struggle to the finish. The cars will start in order off the score sheets. Finishing in the top group can mean big money to manufacturers. Australia's Mint, another of the attractions at the national capital, produces coinage for neighbouring countries as well as Australia. The printing process is totally self-contained. The work rolls on, oblivious of whatever else is happening around Canberra. The coins will eventually be sealed and packed ready for inspection. At each control point of the rally, the times and positions are inspected. It's a carefully controlled and monitored event, both by organisers and team navigators.
Straight on over this crest coming up. Fast, flat out, absolutely flat. Flat, straight over this crest. It's 5/10, turn left through gate.
The final day begins with the race wide open. Blomqvist only needs to pick up 2 seconds on each stage to win the event. Car 7 is repaired and back into the fray. Victoria's Jeff Portman has handled the night and the mud extremely well, and he now lies fourth. Although sun has begun to dry out the sandy roads, the navigator's task is just as difficult, particularly if you have to translate the instructions from English to Japanese, as is the case for Mitsuo Ayabe.
あと100。はい、これ。はい、次は道なり。Y をまっすぐ。あと200。あと100。はい、あと300。十字路まっすぐ。はい、200。はい、100。
Another control point. One of the greatest attributes of a good rally driver is patience, the ability to control the tension yet respond to command.
The road goes left over the crest up here. It's a very fairly fast one.
Stig Blomqvist is one of the finest rally drivers in the world. His techniques equal to anyone. second bunch cars plough relentlessly on. Murray Coote is now 7th. It's one area where a woman's work is never really done. Yvette Pilonley, on the other hand, is having a tougher time handling driver Charlie Bell and the Chrysler Galant.
100, turn left at T-junction. 50. Charlie.
Driver control has to be carefully monitored as they push their cars harder than ever before. Some would suggest that at such a merciless pace, the machines, old and new, sometimes develop a mind of their own.
300 right at sea. 200 right at sea. 100 right at sea.
It's a rally for big and small. The smaller Holden Gemini, driven by Wayne Bell, began the day almost 4 minutes behind Greg Carr. He knows something exceptional must happen for him to win, but he must stay at the top to have a chance. It's now a mixture of road conditions, sand, mud and dust. The Saab defies them all, demolishing times and kilometres. Blomqvist is heading for the mine shaft, a descent that can destroy an unwary driver. In, across, and out of the corners. At the bottom of the drop, the crowd waits. No Blomqvist and no Saab. disaster has struck this time for the Swede. Of all things, a broken battery mount, and it will cost him 4 minutes. No time for others to worry. The drivers and navigators must stick together for these final sections.
Oh, you know, I suppose if we were man and woman, we'd be in bed together, you know. Yeah, real good. That's part of the whole thing. You've got to get on well together, you know. Otherwise, you can't relate properly, and you get tension build up, and you know, things don't go real good. And you've got to be absolutely spot on the whole way. You know, when you're calling these turns in the forest, you've only got to miscue by a little bit. And if your driver's driving right on the maximum that he can, he's allowing for the fact that you've said you're going to turn right in 1/10, and his braking's in accordance, and if you're slightly out, you overshoot or you don't make it, or whatever the case may be. So everything's got to be right on the ball, you know. That's what puts the whole team together.
Could you sum up the rally as it's gone so far?
So far, I could say this much: it's gone about to what I expected it to, except that I did expect one of the two very fast cars, either Carr or Blomqvist, to have had major problem and dropped out by now because of the pace being so quick right between those two. Well, they have had problems, but they've been lucky that they've been able to overcome them. You know, Carr's been off once, Blomqvist broke something and dropped to maximum, and so it goes on, you know. And we were hoping for that those two might break, because we were fairly assured that our car was capable of sitting in about third place, and that we could creep up and take number one, you know.
The navigators and drivers all know the rules of the game, especially so Stig Blomqvist. Blomqvist knows it's now or never. He's catching cars now that were leaving control points a minute in front of him. Wayne Bell and the Gemini continue the onslaught of the road. Race leader Greg Carr has his own mandate to follow. He's in the lead and must now weigh speed against caution.
2/10 turn left through gate, then bear left coming up straight ahead of you. 1/10 coming up left and left. Keep left down here. One K turn left at T junction. There's a left-hander coming up here, fairly fast, no worries. Fast right-hander. Five tenths turn right at crossroads. Flat through here now, absolutely flat, no worries.
The Saab, like a true champion, won't give in. He cuts another 20 seconds off the lead.
through, very slippery but fairly fast. Going well, I think we might make up about 4 seconds on Blomqvist through here.
Running repairs are another part of the challenge. Mitsuo Ayabe has proven himself a great competitor and a popular ambassador among the drivers.
The bloke lost third place a couple of years ago by doing that. He rolled it. Understand?
As the crews line up for the final 2 sections, Colin Bond reflects that it's been an event full of fight all the way.
Well, basically, I think it's been a fabulous event. I think the rain has made it in a lot of ways. It's made it so that, you know, it's been certainly a driver's event. I think that if it had been dry all the time, even so, probably the most powerful 2 cars have done well. But it's been able that, you know, the cars with a little bit less power have been able to sort of match the bigger horsepower cars in the wet. Well, not necessarily match them, but get very close to their times. And I think generally it's kept the event very close together.
Now on into the final section. Greg Carr loses another 32 seconds by spinning off the road. Any more and Stig Blomqvist could storm home. The Swede knows his chances. He's won 16 stages to Greg Carr's 9. He must keep on the pressure. Not far to go now, and Ayabe pushes his Truino into 5th position. Semi-darkness and rain shrouds the final few yards, but Greg Carr has poured the escort through the last section to win his 4th Castrol International Motor Rally. The assailant in 2nd spot is Stig Blomqvist. He continually proved his ability in the Saab. In the end, it was only seconds that told the difference. The crowd stays on, expectant, waiting to see the rest of the finishing order.
Good performance, Fred Gacentis, congratulations. Greg Carr. And we are proud to be behind this event, a truly international one, as you see today, by the competitors have been involved, and we are delighted to see the international level of activity.
Wayne Bell 3rd in the Gemini, fine competitors in a smaller
We
car.
have much pleasure, Greg, in presenting you with the trophy. And it's been a truly tremendous professional effort.
Greg Carr and Fred Gacentis, the jubilant winners. For them it was a match against a great competitor in a momentous event. Australian rallying finishes with profound pride. 1979, the challenge will begin again in earnest.